Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Unqualified Critics. So today I've got a special guest. I'm really excited about this. Something I've been looking forward to for the past couple weeks. And this idea, and I've got to give some credit, came partly from Retro Ralph, actually. So he brought to my attention a logo on the boot screen for the newer Arcade1up products. We were talking about Big Blue, and Thinkup came out of that discussion. And he said, "Man, have you looked into this? Have you thought about this?" And the answer was, "No, I hadn't really thought about it." So I was really glad he brought it to my attention. So shout out to Ralph. We've got Jerry here from Thinkup, and he and his company have done the design for the physical product. And my understanding, Jerry, is you guys have been doing, I should say, the design really from the start. So I just wanted to go through and hear a little bit about that journey. I've got some questions. I know my audience had some questions, so got some stuff written down. But I'd love to just hear, man, about it. And before we kick off, just a quick preamble, but my thoughts on it. One of the reasons I was so excited to talk to Jerry was, I think 3 years in now, 3.5, whatever the timeline is, it's easy, and I do it sometimes too, to sort of take this stuff for granted. Like, yeah, of course we've got these home arcade cabinets, and their competitors have sprung up with their products, and it just seems so obvious. But at the time, you couldn't buy a miniaturized home arcade outside of maybe some specialized like Pixel Bash, like really expensive products. But there was no mass market, mass production, non-one-off kind of product that you could go in and buy for a few $100s. The prices have gone up a bit, but it basically made having an arcade in the home affordable. So to me, that was what got me excited about this when you guys first announced. But I'd love to hear from you, Jerry, about just coming up with these ideas, getting kind of pen to paper and getting a product that could be produced and in people's homes.
Well, hey, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's pretty crazy thing. As you know, Scott from Tastemakers, Arcade1up. Him and I go back many years.
That's Scott Backrack for everyone listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
We go back many years, and both of us are from the toy industry. So we've been designing toys and creating products together for many years. And then Scott and I met up, and he actually spawned the idea about doing an arcade type product.
What year was this when this idea popped up?
It's probably going back 4 years now. I mean, we actually moved very quickly on it, and recognizing that it's something pretty cool. Actually, I mean, it's a funny story actually how it happened. Actually, so Scott and I met numerous times over the years, and he spawned this idea about this arcade thing, and so I have a crew of about 7 designers that work here at my company. And so we actually made up a design. He had no idea about it. He spawned the idea, so he didn't know what we were going to come up with. And we came up with, as you guys know, right, the original 3/4 size arcade. And we had some internal discussions of why we made a 3/4 inch or a 3/4 inch size arcade. One was, being from the toy industry, we're going after the masses. We're going after everyone. We're not just going after a niche group of individuals or somebody. We're going into a mass market. So we wanted it to be, scale-wise, to be something that everybody who has limited space, or if they want to put it in a bedroom or something like that, could put it into their home.
So wait, let me pause you real quick. So it wasn't primarily retail shelf space or price that dictated the size. It was just literally, getting it to fit into a small space.
Right. It was basically, at first, yes, the original idea was, hey, look, we didn't believe at the time that someone would want a full-size arcade in their home. It just was like too big.
Yeah.
Who's going to buy that? Oh, it's kind of crazy. But internally, we came up with said, let's make it 3/4 the scale. And we didn't have a riser on it at that time, by the way.
So it was all one piece. Was it still roughly the same height as the cabinet with the riser?
No, take the riser off. Didn't exist. So it actually sat down.
Oh,
so take the riser off.
So it was more like half scale almost.
Yes, it was half scale. So but the controls, the buttons, the joysticks, the screen was the largest screen we could mass get our hands on, which was, I believe, a 17-inch screen. And we looked at that, and we came up with a few designs, and then we actually foam cored it up, and we actually made the first one out of foam core, not a non-working, just a visual look. And we all looked at it as a group. We said, man, there's something pretty cool about this thing. I don't know, it's pretty cool. So we had Scott come in the office. We had set up a meet, said, hey, Scott, come take a look at what we put together. And I can tell you right from the start, I have to hand it to Scott. He's really got this knack for recognizing products. He's been doing this for many, many years. And he looked at that and said, yeah, that's right on. So I have to hand it to him. He said, man, this is pretty cool. So it's all started from that one moment of making that foam core and coming up with, really, yes, it was probably half scale at the time.
Do you have a picture of that original foam core model?
I probably don't have it anymore because we've made hundreds of them out of foam. So actually, we made that foam core. Of course, we've made hundreds of others since then. Yeah. As the designs matured. But we actually went out there and we built some working samples, and it was kind of funny. We showed it to a retail. I'm not going to say who it was, to get his gauge, because we just said we think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, but it was such a new idea that
right. Look, yeah, I'm an old designer for many years. Been doing this product design for 30, 40 years. And I looked at Sharper Image. Sharper Image back in the day used to sell full-size arcades for thousands of dollars. And this was, Scott, handed to Scott again. He says, it's mass market. We have to make it for a certain price. We have to get it for a certain price so that it can appeal to everybody.
So they debuted at $299, but was that when Scott said certain price, did he say $299, or was that kind of
well, our goal was less.
Oh, really?
It was less. Yeah, we would have loved it to be less. Yeah. We thought there was some magic number there that was under $300. Under a $300 price point. So that was really affordable to almost anybody. I mean, if you look at it right now, some of these big licensed kids' kitchens and doll houses and stuff are a few $100s. So if you said, well, look, if we can make this and get it to that magic 200 to 300 range, somewhere in there, I think we have a product. Now I believe, and I was probably proven wrong on this, is that I didn't believe people wanted to have a full-size arcade, or at least something that you stand and play. So I was always arguing for no, I want it to be half scale. I want to get a little stool. Why would anybody want to stand in their home to play this? Yeah. People play PlayStation and Xbox and stuff, and they sit on a couch.
But do you know the answer to that question? Because it's an interesting question. Again, a lot of us take this stuff for granted. I know there'll be comments of course you want to stand, but when you're coming up with a new concept, right? And I say new, obviously this is reinventing something, but it was new to get this into the home. Absolutely. These little assumptions are obvious at the time, but my take on why people want to stand is because, and it's real simple, that's how we played it originally, was just standing. That's it. It's literally that simple. Sitting is more convenient, but at the same time, sitting in front of, like you said, consoles or PC or whatever, run an emulator, whatever you want to do, that's most convenient. But we're buying the cabinets because we want to recreate that experience of being in an arcade. That's really all it is.
Absolutely. And that's actually something that I argued against.
That's fine. Well, hey, good on you for admitting that, man, because it's easy after the fact to
it's so easy. Look, this is you can see, I mean, if your fans and yourself and anybody that's really involved in the arcade world, you can see how Arcade1 has matured and changed and altered. It's because, we're listening to people who are really passionate about it. I still fight it sometimes because I want to go after the masses. I want to go after the masses and not necessarily go after a niche.
That's the eternal conflict.
Yes.
With Arcade1up, in my opinion. It sounds like you agree. So it's got to be a tough spot because on one hand, these products are fundamentally enthusiasts, just fundamentally. If something as mainstream as Pac-Man, the people that want to spend the most money on a cool Pac-Man machine are going to be the enthusiasts. And I can see, and let's talk about this too, but I can see little glimmers of, hey, let's branch out past that. Let's get into the kids' toy market with the juniors. Let's get into maybe these tabletop, laptop cabinet arcade panel that maybe came through FCC, whatever that is. We don't have to get into that. I'm not going to ask you about that because I know it's not been announced, but it dropped on FCC. And there are other examples that are less recent. But these are, let's get less expensive. Let's get more impulse buy. I get that. At the same time, by going in those directions, you have fans that feel like, no, wait, this is my thing. Arcade1up is mine. Arcade machines are mine. It's so near and dear to people's hearts that I think people sometimes you almost get offended. And I've done it too. I'm not above it. I've seen stuff and said, oh man, I really wanted it to be a little closer to the original because it's so awesome as a concept. It's so exciting as a product. You get this emotional investment, which is great for you guys because you got people like me and a bunch of other people watching this who have bought 15, 20 cabinets. Awesome for one-up, awesome for your design. But that's not the mass market. At the end of the day, there's probably only a few 100,000 of us. I mean, it's not the mass market. So what do you think the future is with trying to balance mass market with the enthusiast base that probably, I would guess, and I feel free to disagree with this, I might be wrong. Do you think the base I'm talking about, people like me, people who watch this video, is that the bulk of Arcade1up's revenue right now? And if it is, do you think it will be in a couple years? How do you see that balance?
No, I don't believe so. I believe you're a big part of Arcade1up. I believe you're a big part of how the company is moving forward from a design standpoint. But I don't believe you're the bulk of their income.
So why leverage the design insights from that core if most of the revenue is somewhere else?
Because this is where I beg to differ to some people in the office, is that why not go after the purists and keep going in that direction? Because the masses will buy it anyhow. They don't really care about the design necessarily. Yeah, right. They just want the cool arcade thing in their home, right. And they're not really caring about the T-molding and the light up marquee necessarily. Maybe they like that, but you mean those things are very important to people like yourself. And this is, I have to give this a lot of credit to the other guys and not myself.
You talk about the other guys at Thinkup?
Yes. Well, not only me, I could say this again, there's many people now. There was only a handful of us when we first started, but now Arcade1 has really grown and there's tremendous amount of input now on designs from many people. The design team has grown tremendously. And some of them are very enthusiasts. Like they are really, really, like yourself, they're really into it. But on the other side of it, we battle. I mean, this is a battle between manufacturing and design. It's a constant battle because as you see the prices keep going up, it's not something that we want that to happen. We're fighting that. We're finding ways of how to make the product, the quality to remain, but yet keep the price somewhat respectable. Because that's what one of the first things that Scott wanted to do was make a home arcade at an affordable price.
Have you seen as the prices go up? Let me pause for a second because I can already kind of foresee some of the comments and some of the insights from people. So when I listened to John D from Arcade1up, one of his interviews, there are a lot of questions about price. And I've made a lot of content about this. A lot of people have.
Sure.
My personal opinion, and again, I'm the reason I'm saying this stuff, I kind of want to bounce stuff off of you because I'm not in the company. I'm not in there. This is me from the outside. So again, if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. My personal opinion is the price increases beyond whatever needed to be done for inflation. It is probably not good for the company. Retailers don't want it. They're going to push back on it. And obviously it affects your volume, and you guys are a volume sales company. When I hear Arcade1up sold 2 million cabinets and I see, 30 to 50 employees, that's a big company. but that tells me thin margins, because 2 million cabinets is a lot of revenue, but 30 to 50 employees, that's a great sized team, and take nothing away from that. But you would think, okay, hundreds of millions of revenue, you probably have a bigger team than that. So thin margins. So not a lot of room to go down and cut price potentially, but that retailers maybe would beat up on that, or the consumer would beat up on that. And so, am I right, or is it more of a cash grab? Because there've been these debates in the community about, wow, are they just, relative to a competitor, one-up's prices are going up. People would say that's a cash grab. I guess, what's your take on that?
Well, I can't really speak to that because I'm on the design end of it. But I do know from working with them very closely that they're very concerned about the price. And I work very closely, and so does my team. And I tell you, I should say, the team here at my company, they're very passionate about this also. So I know that there are internal battles with manufacturing and pricing, and sometimes it's completely out of their control. I'm not going to tell you because I don't deal in that end necessarily anymore. In the beginning of when the cabinets were first designed, and just a handful of us, I literally went over there and I met with the factories and learned a lot about manufacturing an arcade machine when I never knew anything about it.
You guys are probably trying to figure out, is this even feasible, right?
Is it possible? Is it possible? I mean, I'm the guy that fought with Scott about making it like an IKEA product where you actually put it together.
Yeah.
And I remember when we had these debates, no, it's got to come in a full size. It's got to come out of the box build.
Said, that's interesting. I always thought the IKEA angle, because that was part of the early marketing materials.
Yeah.
I always thought that was like a core element. I didn't realize that was debated.
Well, it was definitely debated because, one of the things that, people debated was, does someone really want to put this together? Does someone really want to get a box and get out a screwdriver and really put this together? Yeah. Or do they want to, when they buy something like this, get it like a refrigerator, open the box, slide it out, plug it in?
You guys were really trying to figure out how casual is the market, right? How casual is your buyer? How low price or high are they willing to spend? How much time are they willing to invest assembling, and how much attention to detail do they care about?
And it definitely helped us going in that direction of having it built.
I'm sure that saved a ton of money, right?
Tremendous shipping. You know how it works with containers and stuff. How many pieces can you put on the container, and that's the cost of the container. So having them compacted in a box and having someone built it, and it wasn't just me. I don't take a lot of credit for this because there's a team here. But very, very heated debates about certain things about how to do it. But I really believe that, mass market is very acceptable of IKEA. I mean, IKEA is a huge company. They understand that process. Yeah. They really do. It's not a foreign thing. You get it. You put it together. Yeah. And we had some quality issues in the very beginning, but we were learning. How to do this.
Well, let me go back to the flat pack idea just real quick. So for me as a consumer, now at this point, I've put together so many that I honestly I hate it now. But that's only because I've put together so flipping many.
Sure.
However, the first 10 or 12 even, it was exciting. I mean, I actually liked it. And I always wondered if part of IKEA's success, I don't like IKEA's products at all, but they have a really rabid base of people that love their stuff. And I always wondered if this element of assembling it kind of creates this psychological ownership. And I always thought personally, just me, armchair psychologist, thinking that might be part of IKEA's success, even though, I mean, the bigger issue is the price and more important stuff. But with one-up, I wonder if there was an element of that. People are taking it out of the box, they're assembling it. When I got my first arcade product that didn't need assembled, it was the Neo Geo MVSX from Unico, came out of the box ready to go. It felt a little anticlimactic. It was nice not having to assemble it, and it was nice that they spent the money on, like you said, the shipping's more expensive. Yeah. But there's something about assembling it, I think, is part of that transition of Arcade1up into an enthusiast product. Even though that was your idea, but you maybe weren't on the enthusiast side, but it feels like an enthusiast thing to do.
Sure. I know. I you know what? You may have hit something that we've never even thought about. Having ownership or pride, I guess, of putting it together. So You may be right. I don't think that's anything that we actually thought about. We were actually just thinking about cost. And
we'll just edit it back in, so you'll say that's what we thought about.
Yeah, I'll say that in the future. Yeah, we knew that. We knew
and
that.
Again, I mean, when this stuff is up in the air, that the reality is you guys didn't know how enthusiast people were. But I want to go back to something you said earlier about the design of the T molding, the little details. You're saying, hey, the casual market doesn't care about that. I think a couple years ago I would have agreed with that. I don't know that I agree with that anymore. I think the casual market might care a little bit. And yeah, when they're shopping and they see the box, they're kind of skipping past that. But I wonder if it's the difference between them getting the one cabinet versus coming back for more. Because when I think about the competitive landscape, the at games especially, the iArcade, I'd put them in this boat too. They don't sell. I mean, we think about the casual market in a way, even though Arcade1up's selling the dedicated cabinets and you're trying to go for a friendly price point and all this stuff, you guys are the casual option relative to the at games of the iArcade in some ways, and you're certainly the bigger market or the bigger audience relative to them, which would suggest is probably your average buyer is a little more casual because there's more of them, just that law of numbers. So I wonder if your casual person who didn't know they cared about an arcade skip the at games Legends Ultimate, and there might be other reasons for them to skip it, but because, hey, this kind of looks like a machine I walked past when I was a kid. I mean, even the most casual person remembers what Pac-Man looked like.
Sure.
So I wonder if even those buyers in subtle ways do respond well to the nice design. But have you guys seen that? Like when you build a cabinet with a high fidelity of design versus a lower fidelity of design, like when I say high fidelity, I'm thinking the Star Wars cabinet, Big Blue to an extent, and certainly that was a much more specialized, probably a bigger challenging build for you guys. But do those cabinets sell better, or is it really just a function of how low cost is the cabinet? I mean, you tell me.
No, I don't think they sell any better. I think that the enthusiast who collects all these different machines and is building that arcade at home, they are looking at the design of the cabinet specifically. This is just my opinion.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
You know, and they're looking at that, and they're looking at, hey, wow, now they're making it bigger. Oh, now they're following the design like I remember in '87. You know, they're really getting into this. Oh, wait a second, that wasn't blue T molding; it was purple T molding. I remember it. You know, these are things that your fans and people like yourself are really into. I don't believe the casual buyers even really cares about that. That's me. That's personally.
Well, you got good evidence on your side if you're saying, hey, these aren't selling better. I just feel
they sell well. Put it this way, I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
I'll just break in. All our stuff sells really well. So it's a little hard to gauge because, and I'm not part of this. I'm only part of the design part. My group is part of the design. When Arcade1up decides to make a particular cabinet, let's just say, and we're designing it, I think they come up with a certain number. I don't know what it is that they want to try to make, right? And you know, mass market, you can sell, you know, tens of thousands of those, and then for certain designs, you're not going to sell those in the mass market. This just doesn't have mass appeal.
Right. But certain game titles, you mean?
Game titles, designs, the scale of it. You know, sometimes when you get it, I think, and I'll go back to my original thought, I don't believe the masses want a giant machine in their home. Yeah. Unless it's one, you know, but not lots. Yeah. So you know, these are all debates.
Well, I agree with that. So I think you'll probably see a lot of comments to say, you know, no, we want full size cabinets, but that market exists as people go out and they collect full size cabinets.
We know it exists.
Everyone knows it exists. It is a small population because a lot of people just don't have the luxury of that much space. Right. I say that as someone who, I'm in an apartment, I'm building a house, I have no game room right now, and when I walk downstairs to do laundry, I'm like stumbling over these smaller arcade machines. I don't have any original hardware.
Sure.
So it's especially hits home for me. But I think for your typical person, not everyone has a basement, not everyone has all that stuff.
Sure.
But I don't know, man. I feel like when you do the higher fidelity designs, even if those don't sell as much, because at the end of the day, the sales are probably more about the titles included, the distribution, the pricing. I feel like it's an investment in the Arcade1up brand to just say, hey, we did this. Look at the Star Wars is such a cool piece. And I don't know how well it sold or didn't sell.
Oh, it did very well.
So the pinball to me is the clearest example of this. So I don't know sales wise how pinball did, and I don't know sales wise how the competitor pinballs did. But what I know is you had direct competition pretty much right away. Everyone had this idea, jumped on pinball in close time. The At Games pinball product had meaningfully higher fidelity, I'll say. Sometimes I think it's a little too much credit, like it's the super hi-fi pinball, and it's not, but it's clearly a tier above the Arcade1up. But the Arcade1up design and the shape, not just the artwork did, you guys did a good job with that, but the shape of it looked like a pinball cabinet, a pinball table. And the other options didn't as much. And I don't know, to maybe I'm just biased because to me that sold me and maybe I'm an outlier, but I feel like a lot of people see that and it resonates with that nostalgia vibe that I think is what Arcade1up trades on better than anyone else. So even if the little extra touches like this cabinet didn't make me do, but I feel like cumulatively the closer you get to the original, the more deep that nostalgia is. Even if people can't quite put words to it or think, here's why I care about that. Again, even your most casual buyer, they played pinball at some point and they walk by this table and they see, wow, that resonates with me emotionally like a real pinball. And then you're not as worried about 1080 versus 720.
I can tell you a little story about the pinball. The pinball, I love the pinball. Actually, again, we designed the machines here, but we also designed the machines with another guy within Tastemakers who happened to be, by the way, a pinball collector. So he actually was core 100%, knew his machines, knew the classic titles. He was really into it. Matter of fact, he'd fix them and make them. So when we were designing the machine, I can tell you that he had a lot of input, if not the most influence on the shape, the design. Even if you look at the legs and how they bend out and they flare out slightly like a real pinball game and the angle that they were, all these were very, matter of fact, the setting down of the screen and with those little side panels, just to set the screen down into, so you're looking through the glass and sort of looking at it a little bit lower. We mock these things up and we actually, man, it's starting to look pretty good. And I remember, when we actually had our first working sample of that, we all smiled over it because even though it was again 3/4 scale, but it just, when you look at something, you just go, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. And by the way, the pinballs are doing fine. Doing fine.
Well, my guess is before the price went up, it was probably absolutely crushing any competitive product.
You're right. Well, that's where it's not my expertise, but there's a balancing act where Scott is and the sales force and stuff. And you always got to balance the design again with the price. There's this magic mixture that you put together and it's just right. Something that goes too expensive, people aren't going to buy it.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people, just based on my opinion, a couple of reading comments, and you don't do the pricing, and I get that's out of your hands. I think right now 750, 850, whatever that they've reached is probably too high for a lot of people. I think at 550 it was money. I know when I ordered mine, I felt like I got a good value at 550. And again, the comments were largely about the resolution and stuff. But to me, I'd rather have a really well-designed, great-looking cabinet that performs basically the way I want. I can take a little bit of a hit on resolution. That's me. Other consumers have different perspectives.
No, everybody's
but I think
it's got their thing.
Everyone's got their thing. But I feel like I feel like Arcade1up's thing is nostalgia. Though, do you agree with that? That it's really
I would disagree. But it's the way they're going. I always thought, being from the toy industry, that if you want to design and get into the collectible world, sort of, or recreate something from the past, it's sort of the kiss of death. And the reason why I say that is because it's like, hey, if I want to remake a 66 Mustang today, am I going to make it exactly what it was in 66? And what happens is when you start to do that, that's when you can open up the floodgate of comments, because no, that's not how it was, and that's not as good as it was. No, that's not what I remember it to being. These guys don't know what they're doing.
It's a difficult standard to meet.
When you start to try to recreate something, I think it's a mistake. But again, I'm not the guy who decides. It's just my opinion as one person.
Yeah, I understand that.
I actually would have liked to design it with essences of the nostalgia, but with a new 2020, 2021 design. Like, how do we do this so that it's today? But I see it, and I've come to the other side of it, because there's such a passionate community out there. Really, I don't follow social media as close as I should, but there are people within the company that do, and they hear the comments and they go, yeah, well, maybe we should have done that, or maybe we should have done this, or whatever. Because I do believe we're still striving for the masses. We are. That's where we'd like to be, but we want to make sure that the community's happy.
What do you define as the masses? Because when I hear 2 million cabinets, I think that's pretty big. But clearly, I alluded to this earlier. Clearly, the company thinks that's not quite breakthrough mainstream yet. Do you guys have a target? Like, what do you consider, if not 2 million, what counts?
Well, it's the funny thing is, you can take a title like Pac-Man, right? And everyone knows Pac-Man. I mean, it's just that's if not probably one of the biggest titles of all time, right? And we just believe that Pac-Man, for example, can be in, like, for every enthusiast out there that bought Pac-Man, there's still 100 other homes that would want it.
Yeah.
It's 100 to 1 that they would want a Pac-Man machine in their home. If it was affordable, it was the right size, we think that there's a huge market out there for that. At the same time, there's your community that wants the real Pac-Man as close as possible, the right shape, the right angle of the screen, or whatever you want to do, the right artwork, which by the way, I mean, this is an interesting, for the listeners, I guess, out there, is licensing. Licensing is a huge part of it. Johnny D, as you know, is a big part of the licensing team. And licensing is tough. I'm going to tell you right now. Unlike other arcade machines where they have multiple titles on there, we're faced with the fact that, no, we can only make that particular title. That's our licensing agreement. We can't throw other games on there. So and the other thing is, as we've grown, so has our awareness grown. So some of the license deals that we do is it's like they believe it's their cabinet, and it is. It's their cabinet, whatever it is. So a lot of designs are now dictated by the license.
I wanted to get to that. So is it true, the rumor I heard, that Raw Thrills got directly involved with the design of Buck Hunter?
Yes, I believe so. I'm going to tell you, but Raw Thrills is involved with Arcade1up and helping us out. Yes.
Well, so the story was they actually had direct input on the design. So I was wondering, has that happened?
Well, I can't tell you exactly. I know there's a relationship there.
Okay.
And I have other people in the office. I don't pay attention. Honestly, this is no cop out. I don't pay attention about the little details anymore. I'm sort of working on.
Well, let's go to the big picture idea that you said. So you said that licensors are wanting to assert influence on the design.
Yes.
So how walk me through what that might. You don't have to say names, but like, what does that look like? You come up with a design, they review it, they have a bunch of notes, or is it something else?
Well, again, we're trying to recreate a machine from 1990 or something like that, right? And now that particular license is now dictating we want to do something creative. Let's just say something cool, maybe a different artwork on there, whatever we want to do. A lot of the licenses are saying, no, this is how you do it.
And this in that equation is original fidelity to the original design.
It depends. All right. They're the license. They say, nope, we don't want it like that. We want it like this. And it could be anything. It could be from artwork. It could be the color of the cabinet. It could be the design of the deck. There's a lot of factors. The licenses are getting much more involved
Huh.
in the design aspect of it.
But
It's
but
not great for a designer, but
are they going back to the original more often, or you're just saying it's random? They just have a lot of details.
no, they have input. Like, and we have to listen to them. You know, they have to approve the cabinet,
Right.
and we can't put it out in the market unless it's
Are
approved.
they getting more expensive as you guys get more successful, and they're saying, "Hey, we could be charging even more"? I mean, I'm sure these licenses are super expensive, but has that come up, or do you guys have
Yeah,
that
honestly,
sorted?
again, I don't want to defer, but I don't deal with the actual license
That's
contracts.
fine.
I can't really speak to that. But I can tell you that the company didn't exist 4 years ago, and now
Right.
everyone knows about Arcade1up in a retail level. So yes, eyeballs are on it, and I
Yeah, yeah,
believe the deals are getting a little sweeter. I would say again, I don't deal with that, so I can't
yeah.
really comment on that. But I do know from a design aspect, we get constantly getting input. You know, we submit the designs to the licensor, they come back, and they basically, sometimes put a big X on it and says, no, you can't go in that direction. You got
Huh.
to do this. Sometimes it's not exactly copying the old machine, but it's just their input. They believe their brand, that's off brand, let's just say, and you can't do
Hmm.
it like that. So there are a
Has that
lot of,
ever stopped a cabinet?
uh, uh, no, they didn't stop, but come down to the wire. You know,
Really?
yeah, come down the wire. There's a lot
Okay.
of. It's amazing the behind the scenes. I think I might have told you before when we first talked about getting an arcade machine from concept to actually out in the retail world. There's so many little things that happen that are bumps in the road that may happen. From the manufacturing side, from the licensing side, from the distribution side, from just you know uh, making sure that everything works. We have an incredible. I know maybe people don't believe so, but we really do go to great lengths now, and we tried to do it in the beginning when we first started about quality. And it's a difficult thing when you're having stuff manufactured overseas. So we actually have people that work for the company, they're employees of the company, and they actually sometimes sit at the factories
Hmm.
because in
I've
Europe,
heard you have to do that if you do manufacturing in China.
yeah,
It's new.
yeah, there's other ways of doing it. You can hire other companies to do it, but really, people are so passionate about quality. Of course, I don't blame them. They're spending hundreds of dollars on a cabinet. It's a piece of artwork you want to
Well,
put.
and again, it's that nostalgia that whether or not, again, I think it's the core, but whether or not it is the core of Arcade1up's success, for the people that buy it, they're going to have that really high standard. And I want to go back to something you said a few
Yes,
minutes
sir.
ago, because I really thought was interesting. So you said, hey, if we design this, like you said, if we're going to re-release this 67 Corvette or
Right.
whatever, I don't know. I don't know Corvettes that well. That might have been a crap year for Corvette. I'm actually not sure. I know they had some crap years, but and we're going to redo that. That's not really doing something new. I would submit to you that there's two sides to this. One side is the side that wants the reissue and the line, and then the other side is the side that will get excited about new design and elements or be open to it. And I think the line in the sand is what you said earlier, that what's different about Arcade1up is you just have a few titles. I think that's the thing. I think it's the fact that you feel like you're buying this cabinet because it just has Simpsons on it. It just has Star Wars, and it has the ancillary titles, but it's basically one IP. It's one publisher in almost every case for you guys, I think. And so it feels like that product versus if I go and buy Legends Ultimate, that thing's dog ugly. In listening to this again as I go through and edit, I think I was too harsh here. I do think the Legends Ultimate is very unattractive, but I should have given credit for the Legends Pinball, which I mentioned elsewhere. Not as nice looking as the 1UP Pinball, but pretty nice looking, certainly for a multi-table pinball, multi-cade deal. Pretty sweet. But you guys, I think, get what I'm saying here. My larger point is the At Games products don't look as good. The iArcade doesn't look as good. The Neo Geo MVSX looked really good, but again, that was just kind of a one brand. So once you go to this multi-brand, multi-cade, you don't really have to be good looking. We hold one up to a higher standard for appearance, but for good reason. No one criticized it for being ugly because that's not part of the childhood. That's a portal to play a bunch of games
Right.
and bring their own. But somehow that multi-cade angle, the thoughts of the nostalgia are gone. iArcade, I don't think it's dog ugly, but I don't really love the design. But People are largely okay with it because it's not replicating the original. They play Shadow Dancer on it. It's not a Shadow Dancer cabinet. So I think One Up saying, "Hey, we're giving you a Star Wars cabinet. We're giving you an Outrun cabinet," which I love both of those. That's why I named them. But it just that makes it the nostalgia, and then that makes it where I think the audience is going to demand close fidelity. But why not?
You're right. I believe you're right.
Okay, so if that's true, if that's all true, and you mentioned, hey, these other guys are able to do a cabinet with a million different games. That's not your licensing agreements. Why is that? I've always wondered that. Is it because you guys are working with higher level titles? Although iArcade has a few pretty big name titles from Sega and stuff. Why is it you guys have those relationships? Is it just because that's all you want to do? You want to make sure you make the cabinet that is the T2 or the whatever? I guess why is that option closed off to you doing the multiple games?
Well, look, I can't go. I don't know. I don't do the individual deals. I can only assume, and my assumption is could be wrong. But I believe that when you enter into an agreement for Simpsons, for example, let's just say, right, it's a Simpsons cabinet. If I put some other title on that cabinet, the licensor is going to say, wait a second, you're selling that cabinet for X. Here's our royalty.
Yeah.
You're not splitting my royalty up with that guy.
Of course.
I want to get paid my royalty.
But why is At Games able to do it? Is it just simply because they're not licensing?
I have no idea. I put my hand up.
I got you.
It boggles my mind when I see these cabinets. Maybe they're selling it as a console, and you're able to put multiple games on the console. Whereas we're selling a Simpsons machine or a Star Wars machine. And I think a big part of it, I think you hit on the nail on the head, is that we are creating a piece of artwork. I mean, look, are the games fun to play? Sure. It's more of a memory type thing that you remember. Yeah, playing it when I was a kid or doing it. And yeah, the games are good. They don't compete to games that are, say, on a PlayStation or an Xbox today.
Well, that's an interesting comment.
Have that feel. Right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people disagree with that. I agree with what you're saying, and here's my personal evidence of it. When I went from having a pretty nice game room to an absolutely crap game room where I'm falling all over stuff in this apartment, I pretty much stopped playing these arcade cabinets until I can get to the new house. And what that told me was, hey, and I do like a lot of the games, and I will play them for 45 minutes or an hour. So I don't mind playing some of these titles for a long time. And for a lot of people, maybe they only play them for a few minutes. But it really was the experience of being in a game room. That was for me. I'm in a game room. I got my neons. I got my artwork.
I think you're right. I really do think you hit the nail on the head. I believe that
only Arcade1up offers that. And why is that? Why do you might not know, but and that's okay. But I can't believe no one else is doing what Arcade1up is doing. Everyone else is doing the multi-cade angle or the more console angle like iArcade. Why is no one else doing Arcade1up? Is it just literally because of that 3/4 scale patent that Scott filed 4 years ago? That seems like a weak patent.
Maybe they don't. I think probably more people are looking at it right now. I don't believe anybody really believed that people were going to buy multiple machines.
At the time, yeah. But now it's been so successful. But year after year, it's just Arcade1up and then the multi game console deals.
I think too. Again, I speculate a little bit, but if you're a company and you want to go into this business, I think we didn't know what we were doing. It's the old story of just like, if you knew what you were going to get into, would you have done it? But we jumped into it, and some hard lessons were learned in doing it. But we hit on something again from your community that love this product and want to make a game room in their home. And now their basement is just not a dark thing with a pool table they don't use anymore. Now they fill it up with stuff that lights up and has sound coming out of it, and it creates this. Excuse me. That's my Spider-Man clock.
Nice.
So I do think you hit a nail on the head. As far as the licensing deals, I don't know why no one else has haven't done it. I do believe though, it's you're right, nostalgia, but also I believe it's the individual design of that cabinet. And I've come around, by the way, myself. I've changed my tone from the early days when we first designed that. It is important on the design of the cabinet, like the differences between them. Sure, it's not a full scale one. Yeah, it's not identical to the old machine. but it's pretty close. It has that feel, and when you put them all together in your game room, there's different heights and different shapes, and it fills out the game room.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So that's something that I think most people like, the varied designs now that you guys have moved on to. I'm sure it's more expensive. I like it. There are a number of people who like the original, like Swan design or whatever we're calling it.
We 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 called it a shark fin.
Shark fin, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I like that design. So there are some people that want like all their cabs to look the same, and I have no idea. That might be 12 people. That might not be a big enough audience to be able to sell to. But is there any thought of like taking some of these custom cabinets a little more expensive, dumbing them down a little bit to the more standard cookie cutter design and selling that, or is that what the legacy line represents? I mean, what's your thought there?
I believe the legacy line was kind of leading in that direction. I don't believe it's what you had said, where we go back to the shark fin and sort of make all of them the same. I believe, sales and the things we see in social media is kind of dictating a little bit to us that they like the different shape cabinets.
Yeah, I think that's
we're going to continue on that. But here's a funny story about it. It's funny how we were coming up with the size before. And I just realized I remember this was that we thought that there was a certain size package that it needed to fit in, and I forget the actual dimension.
48 inches by chance.
44 or something, whatever the distance of that, and that came from sales, right? Guys, it can't be any bigger than that box. It can't be any bigger. And I said, well, our original design of our half scale thing didn't fit in it. It was too big. So we actually had to cut it down by a few inches. Okay. We kept the deck at the same height, but we actually lowered it and made it a little bit lower to fit into that particular box. And then when the riser came around, I argued so hard on the riser not to include it in the product and just make an accessory.
Well, that was how it launched originally, right?
Yes, and that was me arguing hard on it. Let's not include the riser. The riser came after we launched the product. Actually, it was something that people were asking for, and I said, "Really? They want to rise it up, make it bigger?" I was like, I didn't understand it, but then I do. Obviously now I do, but they want it bigger. I go, okay, well then they have to stand to it. Oh well, we'll end up selling stools anyhow, but now the stools are high. So
yeah,
I go,
that is ironic.
We were selling small stools and then all of a sudden now we're still selling stools.
Yeah.
So anyway, the other thing was I wanted to sell the riser as an accessory because I didn't want to include it in the box because we had this magic weight thing too, where there was a certain amount that FedEx and UPS and all these companies would sell, or if it was over that weight, and again I don't remember exactly, there was an extra fee for that, like shipping, right? Didn't matter on the container, of course, but on shipping. Domestically, it was going to get into shipping costs. And we were like, oh, wow, let's try to keep it under. So that's why I argued, let's always make the rises an accessory.
So was that true? Once you started bundling it, did that affect cost? I mean, I feel like this story is going to end with, no, wait, the sales guy was wrong and it didn't matter. But you're saying no.
It affected cost, of course. Boxes had to get bigger. The weight got bigger.
Yeah, they're almost 100 pounds now. I think.
Oh yeah. Some of the newer ones are more, because of all the stuff we stick in. And I think some of the clubs too. I think we include some other stuff inside there. 'Cause, yeah, it's crazy how heavy they are. I would never have thought I'd ever make a product that's so heavy. Having a guy deliver the FedEx guy, he says, "Can you come help me?"
Yeah.
He can't.
Man, I had so many delivered to my old house, and I'm convinced that the shipping guy hated our house.
Yeah, I don't think shippers like us.
Yeah,
not Arcade1up's. So,
right.
But so I mean, and by the way, just going back to the original shark fin idea, internally again, I have a great group of designers, and we came up with a whole bunch of different shapes, and I always was thinking about mass market. So in the beginning, thinking toys. Right, is let's come up with a general shape that kind of is nice and clean, but we can change the artwork on the wood and just change the deck.
I actually thought that original design I agree, it's better when it's differentiated. That's why I got so excited for Burger Time, which I think was your first custom shaped cabinet.
Yeah, Burger Time was.
But I thought the fin design was cool actually. I liked having four of them in a row that match. To me, I thought the biggest thing the first gen was missing, other than the quality of controls were pretty bad, was the light up marquee. But you mentioned that you guys, learned a lot when you launched the course. Always going to happen with new product. I remember hearing a comment from Arcade1up, and I can't remember who it was. It was someone somewhere said, we didn't really know people were going to play them heavily. We kind of thought it was more of a decor thing, because that Gen 1 cabinet, the controls, like the asteroid spinner was not good. But even, and that gets all the press, but even the joysticks themselves, they broke really easily. I broke a couple. Well, my girlfriend's father broke a couple of my Galaga sticks because he's a big oaf doofus, and he kind of, but they broke really easily. But is that true, or is that apocryphal? Like, was that really a learning lesson that, hey, people are actually going to stand here and play these for half an hour? They need to be a little more robust.
Yeah, one of those hard lessons that we learned again from our toy background. We learned about the expensive joysticks, the Samwise sticks, and all this other stuff. We learned about those, and we looked at those, and we said, okay, wait a second. There's just a bunch of micro switches in there with little things and plastic housing. Why do we got to spend that kind of money to get these sticks? Let's go back. Let's re-engineer these things. And again, you learn, lesson learned. We would agree with you. Our first round of sticks weren't up to par. We had manufacturers that promised us, we weren't joystick makers, promised us that they could do this, replicate this, make it a certain price. They put them on these jigs and these machines, and it would just go like this.
Testing
for days, and they'd have a lineup of them of 50 or 100 of these things going at once, and you can see what quality and stuff like that. So we were assured that these would be good. Lesson learned.
Well, but I guess my question is, was it a surprise that people, and
yes.
I'm sure it's not everyone who bought, but they actually played it like they really got
well it? We learned that probably from Street Fighter more than any of the games, the early games, Street Fighter, because those are a battling game. And we learned a hard lesson right there that we really need to up the ante a little bit on our joysticks, and we did right away. We said, "Oh crap! You're sitting in a meeting with a bunch of people, and there's all of a sudden there's a bunch of hell given to you about the quality of your joysticks." You bet you Scott was right on top of all the manufacturers and trying to figure this out. Let's get this better.
Yeah.
It was such a learning curve. Trying to figure out how to make one of these machines at the same time, get it shipped, get it made. But we just never thought that there was a community out there that were so passionate about it, that were going to give us so much good information. I'm going to tell you right now, the feedback that we got from the early machines really helped us. I can tell you right now, in designing the product, because they told us what to do. This sucks, or that. It's not that so good, or you got to change this, or I need this. But there is a balancing act always with price, cost. I mean, we fight it to this day. You're fighting it about cost, trying to keep it reasonable with things going up. Of course, COVID didn't help anything with us, just like everyone else. But yeah, so I mean, that's the chore we have in trying to design these things.
So I have a question about your newest batch of designs. So you mentioned a few times the scale of the cabinet. So I'm kind of detecting, that's probably a topic internally that, hey, how big should these be? Tron got larger. So I might be an outlier on this. I actually don't mind the smaller size because I can fit more of them in it. And a lot of the basements in the U.S. and a lot of countries don't even have basements, but in the U.S. our basements are short. If you have an older home, for example, so it just it's already a 7-foot room, 7.5 room. So I don't mind the small hardware. But anyway, my point is this: so Tron came out. I see it next to even Star Wars, which stood taller, and it's just this large cabinet, and it feels different than Big Blue, where Big Blue was larger because that was the heritage, but it almost feels like Tron, as cool as it looks, it seems inconsistent with the rest of the lineup. Is that a concern for you guys, achieving some level of consistency, or are you designing each arcade as just completely its own project?
I don't believe that. I would argue with you a little bit about consistency. Yes, back in the early days, but now we look at each design separately, I believe, and For whatever the reason was, and I can't tell you exactly how, because I'm actually not as deep into the day-to-day work of designing the stuff today. I mean, the guys are in my office and with tastemakers, they have a whole design crew and they're battling it out and coming up with it. But I have a Tron. We get all the machines. We get a first sample when we come in, and that's a beautiful machine, by the way. I mean, I just think it's gorgeous. It's probably one of our best machines as far as a piece of artwork. I call them a piece of artwork. I actually, when I see these, when I see people posting their arcades in the basement, I feel weird about it sometimes, because I love it on one hand, but on the other hand, they have so many of them that they're piling them up next to each other.
Can't see the side art.
And you can't see the artwork that we struggled over.
Yeah.
I mean, no, literally struggled. Sometimes, the guys in the office will get proof prints of the artwork. And we have to send it to the licensor or whatever. And some of the license says, no, the artwork's wrong. You got to change it. We have to go back with another file. And
also, it can be
and you really go back and forth, and you might have lost a few weeks just over the artwork that's placed on there. And then when I see these machines, I go, oh man, it's a shame, because that machine was beautiful.
Yeah.
Now there's some machines I don't like from an artwork standpoint, but that wasn't us. That was really dictating from the license. No, that's how it was.
Is there can you be specific about one you don't like?
No, I don't want to say.
All right. But you like Tron. Tron's one of your favorites.
I love Tron because when you see it standing there, regardless if you're playing or not, and if it's lit up and stuff like that, it's really like it's a beautiful looking machine. It's just
I believe that. Like I said, I don't have one, but I've seen photo and video of it. I believe it's beautiful. Let me give you my 2 cents on it. I'm going to go into some questions that the audience submitted a couple days ago.
All right. Hopefully I can answer them. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll just go through them. No big deal. I would submit to you it might be a mistake to not have some eye toward consistency, and here's why. I think when someone gets something they really like on one cabinet, my example would be the slight downward tilting of the big blue control panel, and they really like that, and then they play other cabinets where the original hardware was a little tilted for the control panel. They kind of want that again. It sticks out when they don't have it, because they had it and it was so awesome. The ergonomics were better, it looked a little cooler, whatever. So I don't know, I feel like having some minimum level of, hey, here's the quality you can expect. It's not going to fluctuate as much as maybe you think in terms of fidelity to the original design. If you guys are going in that direction, it sounds like you are trying, and it shows that you are going for that more original design. I think having some sense of consistency there would be helpful, but certainly it's tug of war between that and then having each cabinet be unique too. So I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever that's worth.
I mean, Dave, you could be in some of our meetings and we'd discuss it if you like. But
I'm sure it's a heated discussion. I mean,
like for example, the tilted deck. I'll just tell you real quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's some people in the office that did not like that, and not because it wasn't something that was like that or there was a better ergonomic. He said, "I can't put my drink down." And it says everybody that gets in a party atmosphere and they're playing with something, they might want to throw something down in there. So, in a room, people are arguing, wait a second, that's kind of a mistake. Let's not do it that way. But again, it's the kind of the way the cabinet was maybe. So, but look, all the design is really an opinion. And we try to take it all in. I don't know what the right direction will go. I think as we go down the road of making more and more machines, we will, I think, look to what they were. I hope we put a little bit of a modern twist on it. I would like that. I would like to, I don't want to remake something. I want to throw something in there, but we'll see how it goes. As we move forward. I'd love to hear what people have to say too about the designs.
Like you guys have anything to do with the software interface, like the menu and stuff? Because I feel like that's improved a lot recently.
Yes, actually, a lot of it. Actually, the guys here in the office, and I'll shout out his name. His name is Mike. Has a big part of the interface that goes on in the that user interface in the very beginning. Always trying to improve. Sometimes something that you want to improve today doesn't really affect for months to come. You might not be until the next generation. So you learned, but you can't really make that improvement until.
So I feel like the UI is really good I hate that. So real quick, what I hate, and then we'll move on. But
Sure.
you have to hit the A button. It's not marked as an A button anywhere. And so I've got a cabinet in a new Airbnb property I have on Airbnb. Like people get confused by that, and that's just a little thing that if it's mass market product, it's got to be super easy to jump into the game. However, reason why it made me think of that, the
Yeah.
UI is where I think you can introduce new elements that weren't there. Like with the Arcade1up splash screen, and then you get like Blanca shows up, or X-Men did it, and I think you've done it on some of the other new cabinets. I think that's an awesome touch. The menu looks nice. It's a good balance between nostalgia, but also kind of a modern UI, easy to use, and all of that. And I think you guys are the only company in this space that's really nailed that. I think everybody else's UI is not very good, not very nostalgic. All of them, I think, At Games is convoluted, although they have a lot of functionality. It's hard
Sure.
to build a system that complex that's super easy to use. So I understand, but it's kind of an ugly menu. They probably should hire someone with an eye to get involved with that stuff. The Neo Geo MVSX, it was just very plain. It wasn't nostalgic at all. And the iArcade isn't. It feels a little more like you're navigating a phone or like a
Right.
crossbar
Sure.
interface on like an old PlayStation interface or something. It's okay. They all work.
Sure.
But the arcade went up and you fire it up and you get those sounds. I think that's awesome. So I think your guys doing great work there. But my opinion, if I was a part of this, I'd say, yeah, put your creativity into that. Make the cabinet look like the original, function and play like the original, but have your menu be fun and exciting and have these elements. So, but anyway, hats off on the menu design.
Oh, thanks. I mean, the guys, that little logo that pops up with some imagery that pops up, that's done internally. The guys were playing around with that one day, and they said, "Well, we could do this," and we love it now. So we're going to try
It's
to
awesome.
get it as much as
Good. Yeah, I forget. I think it was Big Blue as the first one I had that did it. And I don't know. It almost feel weird talking about it. It's such a small thing. Like, who cares? But I really felt it was.
No. We agree with you. I mean, take pride in it. Like, hey, this is kind of cool. When you turn it on and you get something special like that. Come on. So
why only then was your logo put? Like, why didn't you include your logo in the old stuff? Was that when you felt like you had more of a hand in the software design?
Actually, just an oversight on my side.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, because we were doing all that work, and I said, you know what? How come we don't have our logo on there?
Yeah.
And so I checked with Scott, and he was fine. I said, look, I just like to have our name out there. We're a big part of the design work. And he said, yeah, he was cool. It's cool. Put it on there. So,
nice.
And not trying to take away anything from anybody, because there really is a big crew, and everyone does. I think everyone's pretty dedicated in trying to put out a good product. And like Scott would say, it takes a village. Not just an individual, so it's not me. It's not any individual guy. It's all of us together trying to create something.
But cool. It's a tight enough team that one person can get an idea out.
Sure.
If it's a good idea and it shows up, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, some bad ideas too, but yeah.
What are the bad ideas? Give us one of those.
We'll say.
All right. Well, let's go through some of these questions. So,
sure. Hopefully I can answer them. I don't know.
Well, if you can't, just say you can't. So Seth Lacey asks, is there any thought on a redesign of the sit-down racing/driving cab, something with a more traditional bucket seat?
Yes.
Really?
Well, we're always we looked at that, and I can't tell you there's anything to work, but yeah, from a design and creative standpoint, we looked at that original design and we said, yeah, it worked. It was made out of wood. You could put it together and throw a little cushion on there, but we could make it better. And so, yeah, it's in a design phase type of thing to try to make that better. We think racing is a big thing. So how can we improve that experience? So yeah, I would say yes. It's something that it's on our board. Put it that way. Awesome. I can't tell you if anything, the next gen is going to be there.
Yeah, I get that. I kind of thought it would have been ruled out because of cost. Was my first guess.
Well, it's funny you say that, because you weigh the difference between tooling something that's made out of plastic, for example, and the cost of wood. And believe it or not, wood is very expensive. You say, oh, no, it's not. But it is. It's very expensive because you pay for the sheet, for example. So whatever you cut out, you pay for the waste.
Yeah, just like LCD television.
You're paying for it. So at the end of the day, if we could maybe expensive tool to make a cool seat or so, Well, the cost of the seat is not so much more.
I was just thinking more of the shipping with the bigger box, but I guess you guys did a pretty big box with Pinball.
Yeah, we did a pretty big box with Pinball. I mean, we haven't really gotten down the road on that, but yes, it was on our board to make a better seat.
Awesome.
That's the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's exciting. I was, when I first put together my outrun, at first I was disappointed by the seat, and then I came back to it, and the cabinet as a whole grew on me, and I like that cabinet so much. It's sitting in my mom's garage right now because there's no room for it here, so I haven't played it in forever.
Yeah.
But I really like it. But if you play for more than 20, 30 minutes, you're going to be sore. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. But man, I thought for the first driving cab that was pretty cool.
Well, I can tell you a quick story. Is that so we're doing the driving game, outrun or whatever it is, with the riser. I just pulled it off, slid the riser out, and just disassembled that one piece of wood over there and slid it back on. So basically, the first seat design was a riser.
I mean, you can kind of see that when you look at it.
Yeah,
it looks about the proportions of a riser.
Sure.
With the extra fins. Yeah, that's cool. All right. So next question from Thomas Vandenberg. Are they going to release a Konami Legacy Edition with Turtles, etc., Wi-Fi, and the original Turtles cabinet armor? So that's really specific, so feel free to address that. But a Konami Legacy cab in general with a lot of titles, I think a lot of people want to see that.
I can't tell you we are or not.
Okay.
I can't answer that question.
All right. And then Legacies to date haven't had Wi-Fi. So is that going forward, Legacy cabs won't have Wi-Fi or might?
Right now, no. They're not going to
have. John said yes at one point, but I don't know. People say a lot of things, and that seems counterintuitive with trying to keep that price at a minimum.
No, that's keeping the price down right now.
Okay.
I mean, again, I am so involved in the design end of something, what something looks like, how it may function, or something like that. That deciding on the features at the end of the day is not something that I get involved in that heavily.
Okay.
I just want it to be shipped and made work. So I believe the Legacy cabinets will not have the Wi-Fi because that actually cuts some cost on that.
Right.
Not saying it may not happen in the future.
Sure.
It could. So
okay.
That doesn't really answer the question. Whoever answers.
No, yeah, but I kind of see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
And next question is Sean Dickman. Why the risers just make full size and when is House of the Dead come? People always ask about specific titles, but go ahead, your reaction to that.
Why not just make full size?
Yeah, or why have it I almost read that as why have it in two pieces. And you mentioned earlier the packaging size. Is that still a huge constraint on you guys, or are you past that?
Yeah, we're kind of past that, but yes, packaging is one thing, but we believe right now, and again, people can argue about it, is that I believe that the riser and the smaller machine sitting on top of the riser is our look now. It's our brand. It's what we are recognized for, and we like that. And you talked about consistency. No matter what the design of the cabinet is, we like that riser as a separate piece. We even like the idea that if someone wanted to, they could pop it off the riser, put it on the floor, and still play it. And some little kid who never played that game before now learns how to play a game that you played when you were a kid, and they don't have to get on a stool and stand on something to play it. So I like it. I think there were people in the company that actually argued the same thing. Let's just make a full-size arcade. But we argued strongly that we don't like that. We want to keep our brand. So that whole riser thing is really just something that we believe is right. So
the riser is here to stay.
The riser is here to stay unless somebody changes that. But right now it's staying.
Okay. Will they consider re-releasing Midway and Capcom Legacy cabs with the line of sight and control issues fixed? So it seemed like those cabinets launched with, in one way, a lot of value, but in another way, some pretty serious design issues, being able to stand there and see past the marquee. And then the control deck issue, I think they're saying, with the edges being raised above the where you'd set your palm, right. The control deck itself is. So any thoughts on that?
You're right. Is the line of sight thing is always, it's not always an issue, but something that we learned along the way. that angle, even how deep it is inside the cabinet, is very important. We learned early on that you can make a mistake, like the early machines, if you recall.
I do recall.
The screen was right in the front.
Yep.
And it's sort of an odd way of looking at
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Unless you were on a stool, it felt like they were designed for me to be on a stool because then
Well,
they
it
were
was. It was designed to sit on a stool, sit down,
right.
and kind of play it. But if you're standing on it, it was a really odd thing to look at.
Yeah.
We learned from that, and so much so that we had we had adjustments on the side of the cabinet internally, and we would actually stand there, have different guys, different heights, and actually start moving the screen back and forth at angles, trying to get the best viewpoint. But then when you have a marquee, that could mess you up. If you're sliding that screen back, all of a sudden now the marquee top could be blocking someone who's tall, right? Unless you were sitting on a stool.
Right.
So yeah, it's not necessarily a struggle, but it's always challenging to get.
But the legacy comments specifically felt like they fell short of what they promised. Their thoughts on redesign. Have you guys talked about redesigning that for later?
I can't say internally that, and you know what? Again, maybe some of my guys have because they're more closer to it in the day-to-day today. I'm less, so they may have talked at that, and I'll bring it up in the that you brought it up, that we should be looking at that in the legacy, and they may know this already. I'm sure I'll get yelled at by my own crew that I didn't have an answer for you on this.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, these are far-reaching questions. It's just
no. I think they're fair, actually. I mean, it's fine. I love all the comments, because sometimes even though we have a nice group, we do work in a little bit of a vacuum because we all have our own opinions.
And a lot of times these products are secret initially anyway, so it's not like you can really share it with the public.
Yeah.
But so I'll tell you what stopped me from buying the legacy cabinet, because I loved the Street Fighter artwork that you guys included, so I was excited to get that original run artwork, and it was the visibility. It was exactly what this comment from Al Black was saying.
Sure.
It was the marquee placement, and it was also the edges. And am I remembering correctly that the screen was almost vertical like the original Gen 1s? Or am I misremembering that?
I don't believe they were like Gen 1s. I believe that they were set in somewhat.
Okay.
But they could have been at a better angle.
I'm not sure.
There might have been something with the marquee that when you put it back too far and you're standing and a tall guy, he's blocking it. So we brought it up a little bit closer so that I know that's been an issue. Not an issue, but it's something that we try to figure out what's the best angle.
Okay.
So you may be right. It might be something that we may fix, I guess, on the next legacy. I know legacy though is kind of satisfying me a little bit. We're trying to keep the price point down best we can, so that the mass market, if they wanted one of those machines, they can get it without spending too much money on that. I don't even believe that comes with a riser. I don't believe.
I think there are versions that do and versions that don't. I'm almost certain you can buy it with the riser because it has the branding on it. Yeah, but there might be a version without it. I'm not sure. I remember there was a Miss Pac-Man that wasn't legacy, but you could buy it without the riser. The next question is from CG7060. Ask him about eliminating exposed screws, especially on the side. Maybe they should transition to cam locks. So who uses cam locks? iArcade, I think. Yeah, iArcade has cam locks. It's nice. You get it really tight. It's annoying if you don't adjust it exactly right. 3 weeks later, you'll hear it go bang, and it snaps into place suddenly as it settles. But it's nice, and it makes it feel really solid. I don't know if that costs more or not, but it eliminates any kind of screw holes on the side. My 2 cents on this, I don't care about the screw holes on the side. They really don't bother me. If anything, I'd like to see included plugs to cover them up, but they're not a big deal to me. But what do you think?
We actually had the plug idea. I can tell you that from the very beginning, but it got complicated when you had complicated artwork on the sides. As far as the cams, I mean, I can't tell you that we actually ever had that discussion. We never thought it was a problem or we never heard of it as a big problem. I mean, maybe now that I say it's not a problem, we'll get a lot of comments. Oh no, we should go to that. I'd
I
love to
haven't
hear.
seen that comment much. I've seen where people are mad if the screw hole is on part of the artwork. Again, that's not something that's bothered me. It's bothered some people.
Yeah.
The cam locks I thought were really nice in the iArcade because it felt solid, and then it looks just totally seamless on the side. It's not something I think is a problem with.
I actually wrote that down just to look at. I will bring it up in the next design meeting about an option to do that, just to look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows if it's more expensive or not, but
because you're right, it will keep it nice and clean on the side.
Yeah. All right, let me see. Oh, this one I already know the answer to, but I'll let you answer since it was asked. Goofyfoot asked, "Are they ever going to sell an empty cabinet for custom home builds?" That is the eternal question that people ask. But go ahead.
No plans.
Yeah, I think that goes against the value that you guys bring to your licensors. I mean, I would like to see it. I think it would be a cool product, but I can't imagine that makes sense for you to do as a company.
It's never come up. I don't believe that. I wouldn't say never, but I don't believe that in our discussions about designing a cabinet it's ever come up that we're going to put out a blank one.
Yeah.
Basically.
Here's a question from Noah. I love this question from Noah Stives. Would a longtime viewer of the channel, would a Golden Tee style pedestal cabinet ever be in the cards? Do you know what I'm talking about with the Golden Tee pedestal, or should I describe it to you?
The pedestal where you basically use the projector, or you are using a television screen?
So there's a commercial version, and I think there's a home version.
We're familiar with it.
Yeah.
There's no plans on our end. I couldn't say never, because I know that in some of our designs, it has come up. You can tell hundreds of ideas have come up.
Sure.
All over, and that, of course, we saw the Golden Tee out in the market. We saw versions of that golf game on Mario. I mean, that's really cool. We like that. Is that something that we can do? Yeah. And I don't believe it's a no. We would never do it because I would like it. Actually, I would too. Out of all the games that we make, Golden Tee is one of my favorites.
Agreed.
Any game that where you play head to head, I can, I joke about this internally. I wasn't a big. I can take anybody on in 1944. But a lot of the games, it's not my thing. Those particular games, but any game that you play head to head to someone, like Pong, for example. I was a big guy that let's do Pong, and there's Pong. Who wants to make Pong? I said, please make Pong. And when you play Pong against somebody else, you really have a great time.
Agreed.
It's pretty amazing because you're playing someone, you're playing a human being, and it's a lot of fun. So. I don't know where I was going with this.
Well, there's another question in here about Golden Tee. Let me see if I can find it real quick. And then I deleted this post after an hour like an idiot. So I should have left it up and I would have got more questions. Oh, here we go. Is there a Golden Tee? You probably don't know the answer to this, but is there a Golden Tee silver strike cab? Oh, he's going in a different direction than I thought. Possible in a cocktail form with the control deck flush to the top. I don't think I would like that product. But
no plans right now.
Okay, no plans right now. Yeah. Any chance of head-to-head countercades? We already have two-player countercades, so I think that's what he's talking about.
So I goofed this one up. I always forget that head-to-head is Arcade1up's terminology for what I call a cocktail cabinet. But there actually was a tabletop cocktail that I think fits this definition, and it was Pong, and it looked really cool. I haven't seen it in person, but the photos look nice. So yeah, I should have asked, are you going to be doing more of these? But unfortunately, man, I just misunderstood your question.
Here's a question from Bones Jackson. What's the chance of an enclosed cabinet like Afterburner? Or you could even argue Star Wars. Star Wars had an enclosed version.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Something that we have sketched up, designed up, looked at.
How hard would it be? I would think that would be so hard.
Well, that's one of the
ship at scale.
Think about it. Just making something that's for a home that someone wants to dedicate a big space for and fit in. So, but I can tell you, yes, we have looked at it. Many sketches, many designs.
Your core audience would dedicate the space. Several thousand people would dedicate the space.
I know that. Okay. We know that there's people out there that would definitely want one of those. Yeah. We looked at a lot of the enclosed games. Even like we spent many times in an arcade going to an arcade and visiting there and looking at people playing. And I've actually today, there's so many of these enclosed arcade machines where people get inside them. They get inside and their speakers are inside. You get the little surround sound going on there. It just seems like you're involved in it. So yes, we're looking at that. I don't know if we'll actually ever come out with them because price and cost and shipping and everything, but we definitely are looking at it.
To me, when I thought about this a year ago, when someone on YouTube did a really nice conversion on your Atari Star Wars. Well, I keep saying you only have one Star Wars cabinet. Of course, there's Atari, but your Star Wars cabinet, they did a conversion to the cockpit format. Looked awesome. My thought was, man, if they ever did this, they'd have to sell it as probably an accessory or upgrade kit, because just sell it all in one box would be gigantic. You had the cabinet and you could buy the upgrade package. I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah, one of our early designs was using the Star Wars machine, the sit down one, and creating a canopy basically that fit on there as an accessory. Let's do that. So we were in the same thinking. So some early designs were sketched up and prototyped and stuff like that. So yes, I think that would be cool. I think it would be cool to have an enclosure, but there's a lot of factors that go into that. Though. How big the guy is that he's getting in there, and the walls coming in the sides, and how small and wide. Because right now the seat isn't very the riser size
cushion thing.
It's not very wide. If you brought those sides up, a lot of guys would be hitting that.
Yeah.
So you got to make it a little wide. So yeah, I love the idea.
Okay. Yeah, I do too. I think it's awesome. If you guys ever pull it off, be really excited to see what that looks like.
Sure.
All right. The Garage Gamer asked a very pointed question. He says, Jerry, what is your background and what experience do you have with original arcade games? I'll just preface this with, this is a very enthusiastic audience of home arcade and original hardware arcade folks. So do you have a story about, what kind of arcade gaming means to you, what your background is?
Well, actually, only just like everyone else who spent some time in an arcade when they were a kid. And like I said, I can take anybody on in 1944 because one of my jobs in Manhattan, when I used to go commuting to New York, I'd stop in Penn Station and go into the arcade all the time and play these games. So yeah, just like everyone else, you have that nostalgia of playing these games. And that's really the core of it. But I'm a designer and I've designed hundreds and hundreds of products. So, I mean, it's the same thing. You get a blank piece of paper and you're given some directions, some rules. Which way do I go? How do I do this? And you take all those factors and then you design something. I've designed everything from, novelty telephones, animated telephones for Mickey Mouse to nostalgic radios.
Man, if you told me you designed that Garfield telephone I had as a kid.
No, but the Mickey Mouse one, not the Garfield one. But, there's a whole bunch of telephones that I did back in the day, just years ago, where they were like animated telephones, crazy stuff, lamps and crazy Nickelodeon furniture and just all kinds of crazy things, and to hundreds and hundreds of different toys. You probably play with them. You're still a fairly young guy. You probably play with a lot of stuff that I touched or my team has touched.
So your background primarily was in toys, right? And when I look at your
100% in toys, but a design is a design. I mean, I'm going to tell you, yeah, I've learned in the last few years about how important, the arcade is, the old arcade is to your community. I've learned more. I'm not like that personally. I'm not. But I've learned that that's very important. So yeah, my background is I'm a product designer, and the guys in this crew is product designers. I can tell you though, a lot of the guys that are in here are very enthusiastic about their arcades, much more than I am. But I'm one voice. There's many people here, especially today. The Arcade1up crew has grown. The design group has grown, and they're very passionate about it. So I don't know if that gave the answer. I'm a toy designer.
No, you definitely answered it. I think there are going to be people that say, oh, well, should have this like really deep heritage. Ours is a hobby that has a lot of gatekeeping, for better and worse.
Sure, I understand.
For better and worse, it has its pros and it has its cons. But yeah, I think that's fair that pretty much everybody of a certain age, certain generation, we all played arcades at some level, and how much you got into it or didn't get into it. But I think there's been an underlying kind of low grade criticism against Arcade1up, especially in the early years, that like, hey, are these being built by gamers? Like, we're missing some obvious stuff. And I think people would like to see a little bit more play testing and a little bit more focus there. But maybe that's largely fixed with the new products. I know I felt like Big Blue was an awesome product. I liked X-Men a lot, but there was a question about Simpsons. I don't have Simpsons, and I don't. Let me see if I can. I guess I'll just put on screen who asked this because I don't see it up at the moment. Oh, here we go. CG76. Who does the control panel layouts? Because someone was upset about the Homer Simpson's button placement. I've not experienced it personally. I don't own the Simpsons cap. So
who does the design of the button layout?
Yeah, the button layout. Yeah.
Internally, the guys in the crew. That I mean, again, they're.
Well, I guess the question is it just part of the overall cabinet design that the team does as a whole, or is there someone checking on these button layouts to say, hey, does this play correctly? Is this true to the original stuff?
Oh, absolutely. We have a team. It's not us. It's not the original designers. There's a whole team that does play testing and is on the game itself, on the control panel, on how it works. Yeah, there's a whole team. I don't know what the team has grown to, but it's quite large. Some of them are independent, like they're just people that love our product, and they got onto the testing group, and they're giving some early samples. But yeah, we have a I think a pretty good crew. Yeah, I'm sure that happens where some button placement may not be exactly in the right spot. I'm sure that happens. There might be a reason why it was put there. And I don't know the reason. I don't have a good answer for you why it was put there. If it was in the wrong spot where someone remembers it, and I don't know the reason why, but there might be a reason.
Yeah, I wish I had it so I could speak to this better. I had it pre-ordered. It got delayed a million times. I ended up canceling it, but yeah,
I love the Simpsons machine actually.
Yeah, I hear it's one of the better ones. I
love the Simpsons. The Simpsons. The Simpsons bowling already. Me and a couple of guys in the back we've had some good battles over that one.
Yeah, and I've never played Simpsons bowling. I was looking forward to that. I'm probably gonna wait and pick it up at some point.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah, good to know.
Here's one. I actually only have a few more minutes.
I've got two. Well, wait, hold on. All right, I've got one last question actually. Well, no, two, real quick.
Sure.
For Pinball, are you going to release a cabinet with Wi-Fi? So I know you're not always in the weeds. So if you don't know that, are you guys still working on Pinball? Is that going to evolve? I've heard a lot of rumors about the relationship between 1UP and Zen, but I don't know what's true.
I don't know what you've heard. You're right. The rumors start. I think we have a very good relationship with them. I think they're very happy with our product. I think, yes, Wi-Fi should be part of Pinball, and I think we've discussed it internally. And I believe the Pinball is one of our best products. So I think that going forward, we need to improve it in any way we can.
So it's still an active product line. You plan to iterate on it?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. I'd hope that. I hadn't heard anything from the company in so long. There hadn't been materials on it.
Look, what we move forward with again is, I'm the design end of it. I'm not actually in the marketing or actual, right. Decision making on what products. But I believe that, yeah, we're going to move forward with that thing, and I think I love it. I love it. That is by far my favorite product out there that we've made. I've played it many hours already. That thing. Every time I walk by it, I got to play a game to try to beat my score.
Yeah, man, it's one of those that's inviting. Like
it's just you just jump on. I love it.
I'm really glad to hear that because I really like mine. I have my Attack from Mars. I like it a lot. But I really want a version 2 that builds on a lot of the things that were done well but could be better. So I'm like stoked for version 2, and I was wondering if that was coming. So
I personally like the Star Wars and the Marvel ones only because Zen puts so much storyline inside there. There's so much video,
more interactive.
Yeah. It's just like every time I play it, if I get farther in, I see more and more story. It's just amazing to me. Just amazing to me what those guys were able to do with the video. So yeah, I love that product.
So
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that. Yeah. Well, I got to jump in a minute. So.
All right. Last question. The Pro line. I've heard about Pro line. What does that mean to you as you guys design? Is that like there's rumors about going into commercial arcades. There's rumors that Pro line is a home line. It's full size. There's rumors that it's still 3/4, but it's higher quality. But nothing's really materialized. Is that still something you're working on, and what can you tell us about it?
You know what? I don't. I can't really comment on that because I believe that that's still something in the works. Deciding what that is. But yeah, that's been many discussions about a pro line and what that meaning is. I can't, and I don't want to avoid the question. I just don't have a good answer for you.
But it's in progress. Is that fair to say?
Yes. When I say when it's in progress, look, when I'm working on something, we're talking about a year ahead of time. Right? Because you're designing something at least 9 months, 10 months out of the line from the time that I'm working on it to the time that it actually gets maybe in someone else's hands. So the pro line is I'll just say that it's something that we're working on. What it means, what it's going to turn out to, if we actually do it or not, I really can't say. I don't know. There's so many questions about that.
Yeah.
I also think it kind of limits your market. If I wanted to,
well, it definitely does. Anytime you do a pro version of anything, you're narrowing the market. It costs more to make up for that, but I mean that's inevitable. Yeah. Well, Jerry, thanks. I know you got to go, so I do really appreciate your time.
Hopefully, I mean, like I said before, I'm fascinated that you're interested in how we design this stuff. I don't know if I've given really any answers to any questions that you have. I know people love this stuff, but yeah, I appreciate you listening to me.
Hey man, thanks so much. I think you've given us a lot of good stuff to think about. So Jerry, we'll chat later. Thanks for watching. If you watched this far, hit the like button and make sure you're subscribed for more news and reviews on Home Arcade. Jerry, take care, man. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.